The government cares about investing, and unfortunately, the government can't spend all of their reserve money. So, one of the things that they love for taxpayers to do is invest in affordable housing. If you can turn around and buy real estate and provide that to tenants, you have partnered with the government by taking out a loan, and they work with the Federal Reserve to print money. So, one of the things that we can do as business owners is
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Sunny day here in SoFi Stadium, and we're here to educate and edify you. And we have a superstar guest with us. This is going to be absolutely amazing for you. You're going to learn so much. Your life is going to get instantaneously better in the next
a guarantee.
20 minutes for sure.
I like that.
We're going to talk about everybody's favorite topic, the IRS. Uncle Sam.
Favorite.
We're here with Karlton Dennis, and he's going to enlighten us on how we can be smarter and better stewards of our finances that we've been blessed with. You know, a lot of people talk about, when we talk taxes, immediately we talk about, trying to save money on tax. Now we enter into maybe a political or a philosophical dilemma, because everybody needs to pay their fair share for us to enjoy the roads and the lifestyle that we have here in the United States. So oftentimes people get kind of weird about it. Like, hey, this podcast is all about tax evasion. I use that word, right? Like, you brought Carlton on. To
My
teach
name
us.
is now off of this. I have no idea what he's talking about.
Help us to understand that, because what's the difference when people don't know? People get scared because here comes Carlton, and I think he's teaching me some
Because his
weird
biceps are
things.
because of taxes.
I don't want to intimidate anybody.
How do we comfort people when it comes to the topic of just being smart about retaining our income to the best of our ability? And do we also have a philosophical dilemma there? Like, should we just be like, hey, just add it all up and give my percentage to the government?
I think that's what most people have been doing because they don't want to approach taxes, which is okay. But at the end of the day, as you start to grow your finances and become more successful, the IRS does penalize you the more successful you become. So you can turn to this rule book that they have created that's been around for quite some time, and you'll come to learn that there are certain people that have been using this rule book and paying the least amount of taxes because they're doing what the government wants them to do. And if you can do some of the things that the government wants you to do, in return, you're given tax breaks and tax incentives that can help you reduce your tax bill.
I love that.
Doing what the government wants them to do. I think probably people hear that, and that may elicit a little bit of a physiological response in them. Like, well, what does that even mean?
Right.
Because you're right, a lot of people don't actually know the rules. So when you say doing what they want them to do, tell our audience a little bit about what that actually means.
Yeah, absolutely. So the government cares about investing, and unfortunately, the government can't spend all of their reserve money. So one of the things that they love for taxpayers to do is invest in affordable housing. If you can turn around and buy real estate and provide that to tenants, you have partnered with the government by taking out a loan, and they work with the Federal Reserve to print money. So one of the things that we can do as business owners is turn around and become business owners by investing in real estate and providing affordable housing to people.
And in turn, you get a tax break.
A tax break and a tax incentive. And the tax incentive that you get with real estate is called depreciation. Many taxpayers who go into real estate investing don't end up paying a whole lot of taxes with real estate because of depreciation. And they can use depreciation to offset the rental income and either other forms of income such as W-2 or 1099 if done correctly.
And looking at taxes, living here, you live here in California?
Yes, I do.
Which I love because I put out videos to inspire people. And one of the most, and I'm not usually controversial in any respect, but one of the things that I talked about, because of my mindset is similar to yours, is it's directing your money is about taxes. And I would rather be where the most wealthy people are in the world and the most expensive things in the world are, and pay more taxes or be smart enough to direct my money so that the roads are better, the weather's better, the buildings are better, things are safe, more airports, all the things that are afforded us in California, where in other states, people are like, well, I saved 12%.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel, I did the video, that it's worth the money to live here. But you
agree.
need someone like you, because if someone like you lives here that knows how to be able to get the same exact type of usage of my dollars or more
Yes.
by living in the best place in the world where there's better of everything, it's a big advantage. Why can't people see that? And their solution is simplified to, hey, I'm going to live in this state because I saved 12%.
Yeah, I understand that. You know, I had this conversation with a boxer, a famous boxer, and he
Did
actually
I represent him?
You might. He had bitten somebody's ear off.
Oh,
And
no,
what-
I had the ear. Evander was my
I
guy.
wonder who that is.
And what-
Evander was my guy, so
what
I had
he-
the ear bit.
He lives here in California. Well, not Evander, but the other
Yeah.
that he fought. And what he said about California, because he could live any place that he wants to too, is why would I leave heaven when I'm already here? And that just hit me like a bag of bricks. And I thought
Like a
about
bag
it.
of money.
And as an entrepreneur, you know, I can work from anywhere. People who want to save money in taxes can get on the phone or a Zoom call with me. But I feel safer in California, and I like what California has done over the years to make me feel safe living here. Not only is it the people that are here in California, not only is it the weather, I just like the aesthetic of California too, and I'm
Right.
willing to pay to have that aesthetic and that feel that comes with California. That being said, California has done an incredible job of preventing people from being able to reduce taxes on the state side. So a lot of the things that you invest your money in, such as real estate, the depreciation, California limits you from being able to take those deductions on the state side. So one of the things that California really appreciates is investing in oil and gas or investing in solar energy. Those are one of the few ways in which you can reduce your state taxes here in California. Yeah.
Real quick, before, I didn't mean to do this, but there's also something on the real estate side that people don't look at, and it's how much it appreciates.
Right.
Yes.
And then you can borrow again. It's an asset that you can borrow against, which
Correct.
is tax free.
That's correct.
And so my strategy has always been look at assets like life insurance and real estate that can borrow against are completely liquid,
Yes.
because I can take my money out and the rents are higher. So in effect, I effectuate a greater appreciation, even though I'm at a disadvantage on the tax.
Right.
If my property's tripling compared to other people's going up 10%,
Right.
and I have the ability to borrow against that tax free, I have huge tax advantages.
That's why I love real estate investing, because not only do you have a mortgage pay down, not only do you have the cash flow, you get the appreciation that comes from real estate when you buy in the right areas. You couple that with the tax benefits of depreciation and writing off management fees and travel expenses. It really makes it one of the best asset classes to invest in. What people,
And the government's laws all have protected the landowner since the inception of the United States.
That's correct.
So you have legal protection as a landowner.
That is 100% correct. And one of the things that you have to do is you always want to check the state. What are the tenant-friendly laws? What are the landlord-friendly laws as you go into that state? Because they do change every year.
People ask me why I have a 10-year lease at SoFi and not a license. Well, because if I had a license here, Kroenke would have all the advantages in the world. The government would protect him as the licensor far greater than a licensee.
Right.
But the richer you are as a landlord, more value you are as a tenant to the government.
Yes.
They're built to protect the tenant,
Correct.
not the landlord.
Yes.
And so it's actually the richer the landlord, the more protected you are, because our government is to do that. So we've actually had conversations about why we want to lease instead of license, and the tax write-offs. You can't write off tickets,
Yeah.
but you can write off your lease.
Yeah, California is more of a tenant-friendly state than it is a landlord-friendly state, and that's part of the reason why I built most of my portfolio outside of the state of California. I really think California, if you're going to buy here, I prefer trophy properties, beachfront, nice properties
Talk
that are
my
going to
language.
appreciate over time. You're going to drop the 15, 25, 30 million here in California, but if you're building wealth and you believe that there could be sometimes lawsuits while you're building wealth, I would encourage you to go look outside of the state of California to go get those tax benefits. Your dollar may go a lot further, and you're still going to get the same tax impact.
And mitigated by multi-unit properties for what one unit would cost here.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. You can find multifamily
Yeah.
much more affordable outside of California.
So I think a lot of people at this point are like, wait a minute, because you said the government wants to incentivize us
Right.
to make certain investments, and in exchange, they will give us some tax considerations.
Yes.
So for the general listener of the show, how come this is not made known widely to everybody? This seems to be sort of a playground for people in the know, people that can discover this. If it truly is like, hey, we just want to generate more investment activity in certain areas, why is this? Because that's what creates the stigma. Like,
Yeah.
hey, you guys are talking about like the secret rich people stuff.
Right.
Why does that happen then if that truly is the case?
Because most people have been taught simply to just file tax returns. They haven't been taught to plan for their taxes. And there is a difference between simply filing a return. Everybody with a pulse that makes over $13,000 has to file a tax return. Not everybody has to have a tax strategist or a tax professional that's helping them proactively throughout the year figure out ways to reduce their tax bill. As you step into this playground, you start realizing that there's certain people that have been on this playground for a while, and they're doing a lot of things that the government would like them to do. They've been investing in oil and gas. They've been buying real estate. They've been doing a lot of these high-level things like buying cars that weigh over 6,000 pounds, or even these business owners that are investing in jets, whatever it might be. But if you turn around and start doing some of those things that the government wants you to do, yes, it does help you tax-wise, but it's also requiring you to spend money. And that ultimately is what the government wants. They want dollars in circulation. When you go buy an investment property, you're spending money. You have to put a down payment down. When you go buy a vehicle that weighs over 6,000 pounds, sure, you're able to write it off, but you still have to put a down payment down on that vehicle. The government's going to incentivize a business owner and real estate investor, but a W-2 taxpayer isn't spending money to reduce their tax bill. They can only spend money really on putting money into their 401k or giving money away to charity. So they really need to bridge that gap into becoming business owners, and a great place to start is by becoming an investor.
Okay, I'm going to take like a radical left turn here because one thing I know, so James, our producer, has been following you for a very, very long time on YouTube. I think he said 4 years, 5 years
man,
he's
love
been
that.
following you on YouTube and talking about your online presence and how much it's grown. And I think about like taxes and tax strategy. It's not like the sexiest topic that people are like, I need to know everything about it. I want to listen. But you went out there and you started talking about these things. Like, number one, how did you make a topic that most people aren't looking into, like such a big thing that people want to know more about? And what made you do that in the first place?
So I figured out who Uncle Sam was pretty early on in my career. When I graduated college, I had a personal fitness business and I was working a W-2 job for Gallo Wine Company in Los Angeles, California. What I didn't realize is that as a 1099 contractor, someone is telling the IRS how much they have gave you as a 1099 contractor. So when I filed my tax returns and I didn't report all of my 1099 income, I got a letter from Uncle Sam, who I'd never met growing up in high school at any Christmas, Thanksgiving. I am a foodie. I'd never seen him before. But he gave me a letter and told me I owed him more than what I had in my bank account. Now, my mother had owned a tax and accounting practice for 30 years.
Wow.
I called up mom and said, who is this Uncle Sam person? She's like, Carlton, 1, you should have had an LLC. 2, you should have called me. 3, we should have been taking deductions, and now you're going to have to pay that amount to the IRS. I recommend you get on a payment plan. So not only did I have to pay off some of my student loans or pay off my car payment, I now had to owe Uncle Sam. And that's where I started to really want to know, why does Uncle Sam get to take so much money from people if they start businesses or if they are making more money? So I hired my mom and asked her, how can we solve this tax issue? And she said, you know what? How about you come and bring your sales training and what you've learned at Gallo in your short period of time into my office, and I'll teach you how to sell tax planning and tax services. I had never gone to school for accounting. I had no background as a CPA. I simply had sales knowledge. When you put people who have simple sales knowledge on the phone with business owners and entrepreneurs that are trying to save money in taxes, you're just sitting there and listening to what they don't know. And I didn't know anything either. So I would go sell that to my mom and say, hey, you need to tell me what I need to say to them in order to get them to understand how important tax planning was. Well, fast forward 7, 8 years later, I decided to get my tax license and started investing in real estate because I realized that's the part of the tax code where you get to have more fun, and then got on YouTube right before COVID in 2020. And that's how our information kind of spread across the world.
Wow.
And I was going to take a U-turn because one of the things that Sean mentioned that has become an issue, which I still cannot understand how anyone that understands taxes could make it a political issue. Because under the definition of what you say is that taxes are meant to help derive, whether it's Democrat, Independent, or Republican, send your dollars a certain way.
Correct.
And so having a strategist alleviates any political differences that people may perceive and allows us all just to appreciate democracy
Yes.
and our tax incentives to help our country be stronger.
Yes.
And that's the way that I perceive it. But I can't tell you in the last, especially 10 years, how many of my friends like have made math political.
Yeah.
And because they don't have someone like you helping them. Should taxes be political or should it be math?
It should be math. However, it is more patriotic to try to reduce your overall taxes if you understand how the United States was founded, the Boston Tea Party. That was all about taxes. And that was when taxes were only about 2%, and they were pissed off about their tea. So
It's like people that were pissed when they're like interest rates for 3.
Yeah.
You're
Oh my
right. They're laughing right now.
Yeah, a lot more.
So when you think about that, we have come a long way from having civil wars where the government had to take money out of our paychecks to now, let's go ahead and increase it from 20% to 25%. Our highest tax rate now is 37%. So as the tax rates keep expanding and expanding and expanding, so do all of the tax breaks that are inside of the tax code. So it's up to CPAs and tax professionals to interpret the tax code for everyday individuals. But unfortunately, there is a surplus of CPAs that just want to file returns and not a surplus of tax professionals that want to educate taxpayers on how to leverage the tax code.
This is kind of like the, I don't know if you can say that, TurboTax.
Yeah, you can say that.
Yeah.
You can say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so like these platforms and programs exist
Yeah.
almost to drone us in, to put us asleep, to just
Keep us in the box.
plug in these
Yes.
numbers,
Yes.
right?
So
and
to
then we
speak,
just pay whatever the program spits out at the end.
Right.
You mentioned this, and we agree that there are a lot of CPAs that basically get paid to take their clients' information and plug it into the
TurboTax.
program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they
Tons.
tell them what
The
they
software
I've got them
does
sit in front of
90%.
me and do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. I could have done that myself.
So
The
for-
software does 90% of the work, guys. I mean, when you think about it, tax preparation is simply just a cost. Everybody has to do it. And whether you want to do it yourself or you want to pay somebody else to do it, the program is going to do 90% of the work. Even for a licensed CPA, it's still asking us questions and we plug back in that information. It's only really when you have hired a tax strategist and you're doing complicated type strategies to where you have to make the program do what you want it to do. And that is tax strategy.
Well, that's the thing. So for somebody watching, how can I know which of the two that I have? Am I working with somebody that's helping me with
Yes.
tax strategy, or am I working with somebody who just took my stuff and input it into
data.
the program?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first thing you have to know is that tax strategy happens before December 31st. So if you're not meeting with your CPA or tax professional in the months of October, November, and December, I promise you're not doing tax planning. If you're meeting with your CPA after you've got your mortgage interest statement, your W-2s, and your 1099s that came in the mail in January and February, and then they message you and you got the email for the engagement agreement, that's tax preparation. It may sound like they care about everything that's going on, but they're just asking you enough information so they can complete your return. So tax planning does require them to forecast out your income. They have to look at how much money you've made from January up until July 12th today and forecast with the remaining time they have left in the year to figure out what is your estimated liability. And with all of the strategies that are in the tax code and then asking you what your goals are, what can we come up with to help you reduce your tax bill? Do we want to buy an investment property? Should we add a vehicle? Should we look at retirement planning, investing into oil and gas like we talked about? We have time to make these decisions. But if we wait until December 31st and the ball has already dropped in New York, the time has passed and now it's just go time to file a tax return.
So we have our audience is a lot of service-based entrepreneurs, people out there building businesses. If you could give them advice and have them have one perspective shift on taxes and tax strategy, what would it be?
Understanding who your professionals are. And I love CPAs, but CPAs are truly certified public accountants. By nature, they're really good at filing returns and doing bookkeeping and accounting. I've watched my little brother go through the entire CPA exam, and now he's studying to become an enrolled agent, which is what I am. Enrolled agents are extremely proficient in tax law. We have to sit there and study tax code and read court cases. So when it comes to protecting you against the IRS and telling you what you're capable of doing versus not capable of doing, an enrolled agent might be able to guide you more. Sometimes what I hear is when you're working with a CPA, it almost sounds like you're working with the IRS. They're always telling you no, no, no. It's not that they're trying to be negative. It's just that they
don't
haven't been
know.
coached on how to educate you on how to leverage the strategy. So they are going to just say no a lot and sound more like the IRS. And so I am trying to get people to more or less just wake up to the fact that you might need more people on your team, and it's okay to have your CPA, but let's look at adding a tax strategist or an enrolled agent to throw some new ideas into the shuffle.
Love that.
Wait, so you have a CPA plus a tax strategist
That's correct.
or an enrolled agent,
Huh.
and they might not
Bigger
necessarily work
team.
at the same spot.
They might not necessarily work at the same
They
spot.
just-
I know what I'm really good at. I'm going to spend every day studying tax code, get on the phone with my entrepreneurs, or be at speaking events and help educate them. That being said, Karlton Dennis has not filed a tax return since 2021.
Right.
Doesn't mean I don't have 42 CPAs that I love who file tax returns at my office. I just don't touch tax returns anymore because that's not a valuable skill set to me at this current moment in time. It's more valuable for me to be on a podcast like this impacting thousands, hundreds of thousands of entrepreneurs with what I'm capable of teaching them versus sitting behind the computer working on one tax return at a time, right? So, yeah.
And to that scale, there's also the financial planning investment side beyond tax strategy. Do you suggest working with a financial planner that is recommended by an enrolled agent or a strategist, or do you think they should be separate and work together with varying degrees of opinions?
I think it's important to work with a financial planner because once you have saved money in taxes, how are you going to grow that money tax-free? I personally love life insurance products for
too.
the reason because many
Big
of my
IUL guy.
clients are
Yeah.
always about, Carlton, how do I continue to make more tax-free money? Okay, well, there's only a certain amount of places that we can put our money into. And let's be honest, you can't stuff more than $7,000 into a Roth IRA, nor do you qualify for one.
Right.
So if you're trying to grow money tax-free and in an advantageous way, not really for investment purposes, but more of like an asset that you can leverage, I like life insurance.
Me too.
Yeah, I don't like
me
to
too.
categorize it as, oh, invest your money into life insurance. I don't want them to view it like just like that. I want it to be more of like an asset that they can leverage.
Like a
Love it.
tool.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's speak for a moment as we try to wrap up. I want to capture everybody's some advanced strategies, some thought processes and philosophies. What about for everyone who's just starting out? So if I'm just starting today, I want to set the stage so that I don't end up in that situation. Maybe I have a great first year, like you said, where, hey, now I get that bill from my uncle that I've never met, and it's more money than I have, which happens very frequently.
Yeah.
What are some things that I can do from day one to make sure that I don't end up in that scenario?
Well, first thing that you have to do is you have to make sure you have the right information. And I think YouTube University has provided many taxpayers out there that are coming into some money with enough information to be able to take it to a CPA or to a qualified tax professional and say, can I do this? What would I need to do in order to implement this that I saw in a video?
There's a timeout here.
Yeah.
I run into this a lot. I don't know if you run into it. Dave has to run into it a lot. I agree. YouTube University is great. But I disagree that Seminar University is great. We sit next to
Paid
our buddy.
seminar.
Yeah, we pay next to our buddy. Well, I'm even saying in the crowd.
Oh, okay.
And then at lunch, I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's like, "Oh, yeah, I'm
Seminar
doing
attendee
this,
university.
and I'm saving all this money, and then I just go and
Try to
do
apply it to my
I don't
own
even go to
thing.
somebody. I just
Right.
and
Yes.
I run
Yeah.
into that where I'm like, "Who told you that?" And they're like, "Oh, I met this guy at the seminar and told me that that's what I was doing." So YouTube.
And wait, but some of those people that are telling you what they're doing
It
have
works for them.
completely different strategies.
Yes. Yeah.
So
Oh,
it
yeah.
absolutely could be like, I've been in that situation where like, hey, this is what I'm doing, and then someone goes and does it, and then it doesn't work for them, and they're like, hey, dude,
Yeah.
I just lost all this money because of your advice. I'm like, what advice?
Yeah.
You asked me what I'm doing according to
Yes.
my timing and risk tolerance,
It
my
wasn't- it
age,
wasn't
my
you
4
do it.
kids,
Yeah.
my tax bracket,
Yeah.
you dumb mofo.
We are not the same.
If you would have told me you were going to do that, I would say don't.
But I
Yeah,
think the important thing
right.
Carlton said was then
That is
ask
true.
somebody.
Yes,
Yeah.
go ask
Pause,
somebody.
Go ask
Pause,
somebody.
ask somebody.
Ask somebody.
The worst that I've heard is, okay, so I had these two sisters that came in and they had went to this real estate conference and they were going to get started in investing in real estate. They want to start investing in multifamily. And they had spent $80,000 on setting up these trust structures that were connected to C corporations, which I would never recommend owning real estate inside of a C corporation.
Right.
And then they were supposed to take a loan to an LLC. The entire trust structures and corporate structures that they set up cost them 80 grand. It took a lot of their money that they had that they were going to use to invest in real estate out of their pocket. And by the time that they talked to me and I told them that they only needed a simple partnership LLC for about $1,000, they started to cry. And I just felt for them. And I was like, okay, this is teaching me a valuable lesson. There's a lot of people that get excited after they go to a seminar because they get motivated, but they may not have access to the right tools and information for them. So they just run off and act on whatever they told because they're inspired.
Love
Yep.
that. I
Yeah.
love that.
It's tough.
Anything else?
I was just going to say that where can people go? I know
Yeah.
James and I are big fans, but a lot of people don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And beyond.
Because they don't live in the United States, I guess.
They
don't-
moved to
they don't
Puerto
want
Rico
you to-
already.
they don't-
Yeah, they moved to Puerto Rico.
Where can
They already escaped
where can
taxes.
somebody that has no internet, no phone,
No Wi-Fi.
and no friends, how can those people find you?
Man, you guys can find me on every social platform. We're Karlton Dennis all over. Or you can visit us at taxalchemy.com if you guys want to schedule a complimentary consultation. My tax team will schedule a call to go over strategies with you.
What do you like better, football or taxes?
Football.
Okay. Good.
I will
We can
always
still
say
be
that.
friends.
I will always say that.
I love that. Listen, I hope that everybody will take some time to plug in with Karlton, a wealth of information, providing information out of the goodness of his own heart to help you, even if you don't end up working with him. He's dropping so many valuable tools, knowledge bits for you to ask somebody who knows if it applies to you. But if you're really serious about maximizing your wealth, then you're going to reach out to him. You're going to do a consultation. You're going to find out exactly how he and his team can help you. Karlton, thank you so much for joining us
guys.
here on the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Until next time, watch the podcast.